ground in 1941. I was 18 years old, a student at Compton College, when that Sunday morning I listened to the radio and found out that the Japanese Navy had bombed Pearl Harbor. Well, the lives of Americans of Japanese ancestry changed dramatically on that day. A few hours later, my boyhood friends, my schoolmates, we decided to go down to Long Beach and join the Navy. Well, Ed Hardage, Roy Kentner, Jimmy Keyes were taken right in. When they got to Sakai, they said, "Sorry, you can't go." I said, "Why not? I'm an American." And they said, "I'm sorry, but now you're 4C. You were 1A, but now you're 4C, an enemy alien." Here I was, an American-born Nisei, now without a country. Well, a lot of things happened to the people of Japanese ancestry. In 1942, over 120,000 of them were forced to move out of the West Coast states. Well, that meant that the bulk of the Japanese American population was imprisoned someplace in the United States. There was a lot of rumors going around. What was the government going to do? Ship everybody to Japan? Sounded logical. They had them in prison camps already. Just put them on a ship and send them out. Then the war got intense. The military decided there's a lot of young Japanese boys, 18 to 25, in these camps. Why not start a single military regiment, put them into Army training, and let's see what the boys will do. Well, it was a very difficult choice. If you're in prison and you're asked to volunteer, you really have to think twice. Well, enough Nisei boys volunteered to form the 442nd Regimental Combat Team in 1943. Well, we'll move fast forward. We're in Europe. We're fighting the Germans. The weather is getting bad. October of 1944, there's a major battle going on in eastern France. It's only 50 miles from the German border. All the American generals want to be the first American to cross the German border. So they're pushing. General Patton, General Dahlquist, they're all pushing their troops forward. Well, unfortunately, for General Dahlquist of the 36th Division, one of his battalions was suckered in by the Germans. They let them move forward 5 miles beyond where the rest of the troops were. And suddenly, the 141st Battalion of the 36th Division was surrounded by Germans, completely surrounded on all four sides. Well, there was no escape. There was one person, a forward observer, Lieutenant Erwin Blonder, who had a radio. He had that heavy, big steel radio, and he was the only contact this group of soldiers had with the outside world. Well, in the meantime, the 442nd had been battling the Germans to capture the city of Bruyères. They started out on October 15. After 8 critical days of fighting, they took the city of Bruyères and got into the valley beyond, where the railroad track runs right through. And this happened to be the main line of support for the German troops on the Western Front. So it was very imperative that the Germans not let that railroad be taken. Well, the 442nd accomplished that. So after 8 days of combat, they were taken off the line, and we were just had enough time to take a shower, change our clothes. We didn't even have time to clean our weapons. And then the word came, you have to gear up. Why? Apparently, some American troops had been surrounded by Germans, and the 36th Division had sent troops out to try to rescue them, and they could not penetrate the forest. So here the 442nd had just come off 8 days of battle, was sent by General Dahlquist to try to rescue the 141st Battalion. Well, that was October 25. It was 5 consecutive days. It was raining, it was muddy, it was cold. Similar forest conditions like this with huge trees, not redwoods, but other trees. And the heavy equipment, the artillery, the jeeps, they could not come up because it was so muddy and so treacherous on the hillside. So everything had to be done by foot. The medics, the cooks, everybody was involved. It was raining, it was cold, it was muddy. Many of the troops got trench foot and they could not walk. Your foxholes, if you dug a foxhole, it would soon fill up with water. It was a miserable 5 days of hand-to-hand combat with the Germans. It got so foggy that you could not see the enemy. You could not use your hand signals anymore. You had to talk. The Germans could hear you talking. We could hear the Germans talking. We were within 15 or 25 feet of each other, but we couldn't see each other. So it was a very treacherous time. Well, to cut to the point, after 5 days, the 442nd broke through and rescued 211 of these 141st Battalion soldiers. Of the 211, 50 were litter cases, which meant that they could not walk out. They had to be carried out. Well, there was one person that was still in contact. That was Erwin Blonder. And Erwin came to our reunion in Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and he desperately wanted to come back again last year, but he was physically unable to. And I'm sorry to report that on May 10, Erwin Blonder passed away. He was our last contact with the so-called Lost Battalion. Well, the history of the 442nd is pretty deep. People tell you that it was the most highly decorated military unit in the history of the United States Army. We're very proud of that record. However, it's sad to say that there are not very many left. There are just a handful here. I went to the 70th anniversary of the formation of the 442nd in March of this year in Honolulu. 169 veterans made it, and the number is diminishing every day. So I just want to remind people that what we started here in 1992, this redwood tree was just a little sapling when it was planted. And now, when you have a chance to get down here and you can look at the plaque on the rock that the East Bay Regional Park District planted here later on. So we thank everybody for their participation. We thank you all for being here. It's so good to see all of you again this year. And please remain and join us afterwards for lunch. Thank you for being here.